Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, I'm gonna make a Laker video right now. Stopping breakfast as I often do. It's a lot of turning points, I think, in our franchise happening at once. Turning points meaning, as I often say, crap will get off the pot type stuff. This is where we're at. 3 games into the preseason, we've learned a few things. 2 things I'm going to highlight. 1, Bronny isn't ready. Big surprise, low-hanging fruit. But I read something right now that I hope nobody even thinks about doing. Faking an injury to try to get this kid off the court. Now, I don't think that's something that you often hear confirmed. But as he struggles and knowing that his contract's guaranteed, knowing that nobody's going to waive him, knowing that he has to spend a lot of time in the G League, and that's probably not part of the plan early on because they want to put him out there with his father so he can run around. Someone put the seed out there that maybe here comes an injury. And what I say is, no, don't run. Is what I would tell LeBron James. I don't think Bronny would have anything to do with that. It would be a decision above his head if people wanted to remove him from the court in some weird ways. I don't think he would have anything to do with that. And so I'm not addressing directly him, but the people who would otherwise control this. Laker Nation, our front office rather, those who are in a position to determine whether or not he gets playing time, don't run. Don't run. Because at the end of the day, y'all did this, and we got to develop the kid. We got to see this path through, or we got to waive him. But as far as trying to skate or slither our way out of this, I won't respect it. So I'm calling for everybody to face this head on. That we did this, that it looked like this is what it would have been done if we do this, that he would come out struggling early on and maybe not be ready. Don't run. There's 2 things the Lakers can do. Live with this, or restructure the contract so that it's not guaranteed, or so that we can open up a roster spot, or so whatever would be legal within the frames of what's possible. Those are the only 2 options I will respect from the Lakers. Living with it or undoing it. Not slithering away, faking an injury or whatever. Like, I don't want to see or hear of anything like that. I think the best thing for us to do for the rest of the preseason is continue to give the kid the minutes we've been giving him. And hopefully, with him getting more used to being on the basketball floor, he will improve his plus minus, which really needs to happen. And look, since I last spoke to you guys about this conversation, I went back and watched 2 different people break down Bronny's film. Kwame Brown, who did a fantastic job, and another gentleman who always screams in the camera, of whom I really enjoy his content, but I'm not sure what his name is. But he breaks down people's mistakes and screams and yells, and it's extremely fun to watch for me. I love watching. I just wish I knew his name. But I watched both of them break down Bronny's film. And a good portion of what we saw out there was just him not running hard. And not knowing how to read what needs to be read on the basketball floor. Messing up the spacing, standing in the wrong spot. Not cutting in a certain point where it would otherwise make sense to do so. He just doesn't have a feel for the game. He doesn't really understand the game like he's supposed to at this stage in his career, which is understandable to a degree. Although certain things you would hope that, coming into basketball, having as much basketball that we would imagine LeBron's son will have played, some of that stuff you would think, like, why didn't he understand this? Why didn't he understand that? So I did find some of that to be a bit perplexing. And it's embarrassing that we gave somebody a 4-year guaranteed contract who's so far behind in reading the game of basketball. I'm just being honest. It's not a good thing. I didn't realize, and because I'm not a basketball mind myself, wouldn't understand these things myself, how poor his reading of situations actually is at this point. You expect that there has to be a lot of development, but certain things just come with, from what I understand, being a basketball player, even in the grade school level, high school level. Some of the mistakes that those guys were calling out he was making were mistakes that they say probably shouldn't be made by somebody who's going to be a professional basketball player. So that's disturbing, because that tells me he hasn't been coached up as well as you would want LeBron's son to have been coached up leading into this point. So that's disturbing. And if his basketball IQ is not where it needs to be situationally, then that further reinforces the need to do one of those two things: send him to the G League or undo the damn contract. And so these are things that that's what this is about. I know it's early. Oh my God, you're overreacting to 3 preseason games, but no, there's 2 things you can't teach: effort and hustle, man. And he did not show enough effort in any of those 3 games that he played in. The hustle, jogging down the court, he's going to have to be coached up. And it ain't just JJ that's going to get on his case. And Bron got to understand something. JJ's hit with a very difficult task because he has to coach your son. And when your son is not given the type of effort necessary, he's got to get on him. Maybe in some ways that won't be too comfortable for his dad to hear. That puts him in a very tough spot. And if your son needs as much coaching as these 2 guys said, just illustrated that he does, he needs a fire lit under his backside. Maybe he needs to be, given some harsh criticism and some tough love out there, man. Get your butt back down court, sprint, like the same way he would do anybody else. Ronnie's going to need that. He's going to need that hard coaching, and maybe it ain't going to be coming from his dad. Maybe that's not his dad's role on the team. Maybe that looks weird. Maybe that's very uncomfortable. Maybe it has a reverse effect. Bron's got to let JJ and the coaching staff get on Bronny's case. You know what I mean? I saw a kid who needed somebody to get on his case. I saw a kid who was probably deer in headlights type of thing. Mine may have not necessarily been with, what am I doing out here type of stuff. And that might have catered to what we saw there. Like I said, more games probably give him a little more comfortability out there. It is a very big stage he's on, a bigger stage than most. So I get that. What am I doing here? Do I deserve to be out here? Do I belong out here? A lot of that stuff can cloud the mind from focusing on the game itself. So I want to give him that benefit of the doubt when I'm sitting here listening to people tell me he didn't run this correctly and that's grade school, this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, we do have to get him ready to play not only NBA basketball, but Laker basketball with his father, which is the biggest, brightest stage in the world. Really, it is. So that's the reality of it, man. We can't skip steps with the young man, as we've said on this camera before. And I really genuinely believe if there's any legal way they can restructure that contract, it's probably the smartest idea for the franchise. I know that's taboo to even say that. God forbid we dare do. But I'm telling you, man, if this don't work out, if this young fella doesn't show anything better than this, we will have made the biggest mistake we made. Maybe even bigger than Westbrook in some ways. Because you really can't undo it. At least with the Westbrook thing, you had the picks to undo it. You could get out of it. This is 4 years of signing up for somebody who potentially may not even want to play basketball. If this continues on this path, he may not want to play basketball. So I'm just telling everybody what I see there. That's the first thing the Lakers need to grab and get off the pot, man. Figure it out. Figure it out. And the second thing is the Quincy Olivari conversation. Right now you're at a crossroads. Before anything happens, before you make any decision, before anything plays itself out, to acknowledge that you might have found something special and respect that in a responsible way for the franchise, given all our circumstances. Because if we let him go and he turns into something, this will be one of them things that you can't undo. Or if you do decide to give him a roster spot because you press off what he did and maybe he doesn't pan out, that's also something that you're going to regret. Cutting somebody else or what have you. This is the time to really make a real decision as it pertains to creating a free roster spot for the opportunity to keep Olivari. I think that that's where the crossroads is. Either you're going to make a decision to do that, or you're going to let him go somewhere else and risk a very promising prospect walk out the door. You know, promising, I think is the word we use. Effort, man, is what I saw. Effort. And it's only right that I provide the contrast. Effort that we didn't see out of young Bronny. And maybe that lights a fire under Bronny to run harder and play with more intensity or whatever, but it's not necessarily the point I'm trying to make. Two separate points just happen to kind of coincide with one another. You really need the effort that Olivari provides. You need the energy he provides. You need the strength that ultimately it looks like he has in him. I would be very, very disappointed if the Lakers don't find a way to seize this moment with this player. You know, I didn't care nothing about losing Blake Hinson because I didn't believe much in Blake Hinson's abilities other than to shoot the three, which it's not the most important thing to me. But this kid has a lot of other stuff that we've talked about. I encourage everybody to check out my videos. We broke this down many times over. I think our team is in a crossroad point as it pertains to, all right, this is before you either make the decision to keep him or let him go. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Either way, are you sure you know what you're doing is what I say. Because what I'm seeing right now is a player that you probably, any one of the teams in the NBA would be super excited to have this kid doing this in their uniform. On an Exhibit 10 contract, it's what you hope to find. Even teams that have their roster spots locked up with a bunch of things they love the most would love to have this kid doing this in their uniform in preseason. And it just so happened that we're the blessed ones with this kid on our squad doing this. Are we really going to let him go while half the stuff we have on our roster isn't necessarily promising and exciting like he showed us in the 9 minutes? That's what I'll say. Maybe you think this is just a blip in the road, but that he displayed such an impressive blip in the road shows you that he probably should be covered in more than some of the stuff that you had on this team that really ain't showing no blips. They ain't really doing much of anything that would impress anybody. They're not a blessing to anybody in the league right now. No disrespect to nobody, but it's not like you're looking at them and saying, thank God we got so-and-so. Nah, they're not. So, for me, it's like, okay, do you have a trade, Rob Pelinka, that can create that roster spot that isn't going to cost us an arm and a leg to pull off? Whether it's a big trade or a small one. Do you have one? And if you do, let's work into the equation of what being able to keep Olivari can be in regards to whether or not the decision should be made to make that trade. Because it's not just you creating a roster spot just to be creating one. Now you have a promising player that you likely would be best to give a shot. And I'm sure everybody's already doing that. I don't think I'm saying anything incredible. That is the circumstance. So, you know, I mean, those are the two things that come to mind when I thought to make this video, man. I just feel like we're at a crossroads with two different guards. One of them we gave a spot, probably didn't bode best for giving it to him, and the other guy we're probably going to lose, who we know damn well these type of guys don't come along very often. They don't. Olivari's, you don't get players playing like this on Exhibit 10s very often, especially off the, sitting down for 3 games, not getting an opportunity, and then when they do get an opportunity, they go ballistic with the small minutes they get. You can't just say, oh, well, it's just a blip in the road, let's just let him go. We already have our plans in place. Our plans are good, but we are also looking for more talent. So if you got something falling out of the sky, you need to seize that and let something else go that doesn't have as much upside or excitement attached to it. That's what I really think, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I like some of our other guys, some of the guys, we have. But as I've said already, none of them have impressed me as much as Olivari did in such a short amount of time. They just haven't. I want to see them succeed. I wouldn't mind seeing them stay, but You know, if I'm choosing to waive somebody, it ain't gonna be somebody who just played great. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's gonna be one of them. And so that's what we need to be honest about. Uh, and they're gonna have opportunities to shine too. Hopefully, they can take what Olivari did as a means of providing themselves some urgency, not just Bronny but several others, and coming out here and playing their best ball, man. And if they can do that, maybe they can get themselves in a space where we're looking at them like Olivari is being looked at right now. But that is not what we've seen from some of our players. And, you know, it just is what it is. It's not to take nothing away from them. It's just, hey, look, something special just walked through the door. You know what I mean? What we going to do? Pretend like we don't see it because it's not convenient for us to maneuver around what needs to be done in order to keep that special thing? Or are we going to do what we need to do to keep what just came our way? And that's exactly what I think of Quincy Olivari, man. He looks like he's good for a lot of aspects of Laker ball. He looks like he's going to be a good ambassador for Lakers in the future. He's good on TV. You know, the whole look, he has that. And then when he gets on the floor, the energy, high intensity. I mean, it's like, yo, if you can't tell something just dropped in your lap trying to test to see if you're going to make a good decision or not with it, I don't know what to tell you. But that's exactly what it feels like just happened right now. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see. You're going to do with the right thing? You're going to make a good decision with this situation? Or are you going to let something good go by so you can continue to do what you're doing, which really isn't yielding you the results that you know you want for yourself? And if it comes a failure, you'll remember that you let something that looked like it was special disappear so that you can continue playing the game you're playing. And I'm telling you, this game, if it ain't yielding us nothing special, if we're not winning a championship doing this, then ultimately, I don't feel it's worth doing. I've been saying that. I think we do need to respect that LeBron James brings a lot of value to our team. Financially, you can put a couple extra bucks in Genie's pocket over the next several years, so we don't want to downplay what it is that we're doing here. It's a business, but I just think when you consider what it is that your ultimate business is basketball, and you want your basketball team to not only flourish right now, but to have opportunities to flourish in the future. So if you're doing things that allow diamonds in the rough to go back to the rough, so that you can continue to do the la-la thing in ways that really doesn't bring about excellence anywhere, I think you're cutting off your nose, spite your face. I really believe that. So I just think that people are committed to doing things, and some of those things that they're committed to doing aren't going to yield them the most excellence. It's not. I think it's a beautiful idea of having LeBron play with his son, but if his son doesn't want to be out there, which his effort showed us that might be the case, low-key, then I don't care to watch that. You know what I'm saying? I don't. As a fan, I don't care to watch that. If he wants to be out there and if he's going to play ball, if he's going to have the upside and the intensity that I thought he would display, and he's into it, then of course I want to see it. But if he's really a guy out there who's just like, man, I'm just doing this because my dad wants me here. I honestly am not buying into this thing. I don't believe I'm good enough to be here. It's depressing taking spots away from guys who deserve it. I'm not really feeling this. Then it's not going to be fun to watch him do it. It ain't going to hit the same if he's considered the worst player in the world. I promise you it won't. And so that's something that LeBron's got to be honest about, man. Both Bronny and Bron. They're going to have to be honest about this. Like, do you really want this, bro? Or are you just doing this because you want to make your dad happy? And even if we are too far, that whole no looking back now, the leverage LeBron James has displayed in making this happen tells me that we're not too far to undo this. In most situations, I'd say we are, but just them getting this done alone tells me that they would, if he asked them to undo it, they would undo it. It's sad, you know what I'm saying? If that's the way that this is about to play out. But, it's one of those situations where if he really ain't up for it, he could really, the chemistry of the team can deteriorate based on what needs to happen in order for him to play. And then if he plays poorly, it deteriorates even further. You know, you're letting players like Quincy Olivari walk out the locker room. You know, it's one of them situations where, in listening to people talk about Olivari, it sounds like he's got people in the locker room that are rooting for him to stay with the team, which is also something that could further deteriorate the roster. Independent of the Bronny James circumstance, people up in there, yo, that's my guy. Yeah, that's my guy. Look at the energy he's displaying. It's inspiring. It's like, yo, that's not the guy to just say, oh, well, we got to cut him. Not when he's in there making friends. And so, as you try to project what this looks like going forward, the Lakers cut him. Now we're stuck with Bronny James, stuck with other players on the team that people may not necessarily believe in on the court like that. It just compounds the elephant in the room about Bronny and about how the Lakers have gone about putting this together. So I just think the Lakers need to try to find a way to keep Quincy Olivari, to soften the blow of the inevitable awkwardness. Because if you let him go and people are excited about playing with him, again, it compounds it. So that's why I'm not letting Quincy go, because it's just too much of a revealing. It forces the elephant into the center of the room, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It forces him to the center of the room. And you know, I worry about the chemistry of this team. I really do. Probably more so than most years. I just worry about the chemistry of this team, man. And I think the Lakers should have really considered that aspect before doing this. And maybe they don't care. You know what I mean? I think there's a world where they just saw the Bronny, you know, business aspect of it, and the idea of doing this in a Lakers uniform so much more important than like 90% of the roster. You know what I mean? So it's like, look, if anybody doesn't like it, we don't care, because this is something that we want to do. You know what I'm saying? And for that, I mean, it sucks. But I don't know if that's not what's going on here. They just really don't care if this falls apart. Those guys can all go. Like, that's literally how it could possibly be looked at. But just the same, in this collective bargaining agreement, you may feel that way, but once it's time to start getting rid of these people, then you can't do it without giving up future assets, which you're coddling so hard because you obviously value your future. Then you start wondering, well, maybe me not caring so much about everybody here and the chemistry here isn't the way to go, because now we can't get rid of these people and the thing is busted up. So what do? Fire JJ, a promising coach? Because he's not able to keep this impossible chemistry together in his rookie season? Like, I just think that sometimes when you're trying to do certain things, it's so important that you value 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, especially when considering the possibility of things going wrong. It's very important to say, okay, well, under normal circumstances, under the regular collective bargaining agreement, when ain't no aprons, can say, hey, if people don't like it, they can leave. But in the reality of these circumstances, I can't just get rid of people. So, you know, I think it's important that the Lakers really consider caring about the chemistry of this team in a way that maybe wouldn't necessarily be as necessary, basically. So that's on my mind, man. I just think that it's going to be hard to move around, and I think the Los Angeles Lakers are in a strong spot to see success if they keep it together based on the measures of low expectations that we have for the team, and, you know, the idea that we can exceed them if we do keep good chemistry under these impossible circumstances and do the right thing with each and every roster spot. Which is why I wonder if we should really try to just do whatever we need to do to create the roster spot to shave off some of the stuff of this team that needs to go. Maybe you don't do it right away, but you do it at some point throughout the season. You got to move on from certain players so that you can make room for the occupied roster spot of an unusable player, the welcoming of something that could potentially be special, and you know, just ultimately raising the overall ceiling of this team by not diluting it with talent that's not going to play up to the level necessary to make the team look good. I've been hearing a lot about Zack LeVine. Salute to Kobe Minute. Obviously, Zack LeVine, if you've been following what's going on in the preseason, had a really good game for what you would expect from him. He had like 29 points or something, like 24 points, somewhere in that ballpark, with a perfect from behind the arc over 7 threes or something like that. He really shot the ball extremely well. And he had like 4 assists, 3 rebounds, or something like that, but it was about his 3-point shooting and how he looked out there. So maybe, naturally people are going to say, well, should the Lakers now make the trade for Zack LeVine since he looked good? His contract is still bad as it gets. It's probably the worst contract you're going to find. So my answer would be hell no. Not unless the Bulls sweeten it to such a degree that makes it worth it. And even in considering that being something they would be willing to do, the collective bargaining agreement apron era gets in the way of that. We can't just take back more salary, or there are going to be so many different things that can't be done that would otherwise potentially make it worth it for either team. So it's, this is why you don't take certain chances with your franchise while this apron thing is going on. But for me, do I see that as a positive? The whole LeVine situation make it so that it's more necessary for me to try to create a roster spot, and maybe lessens my intentions on being so steadfast and not making a trade like that. If that trade can potentially create that roster spot, would it be more worth it? Now that I have this player that I want to give this spot to, and maybe no other way to make it happen, the answer is hell no, man. I don't want that contract. I'm cool, bro. No, I am vehemently against that Zack LeVine contract. I don't want any parts of that on my franchise. I don't want him opting in a $50 million contract 3 years from now when he averages about 30 games a season, constantly getting hurt, playing poorly in the playoffs. I have no desire to do that. As a Laker fan, as somebody who pays close enough attention to the market and all this different stuff, Zack LeVine needs to stay in Chicago. He needs to. There's only one player that comes to mind that I would be willing to swap Zack LeVine for, and that's Jordan Poole in Washington. I did the math on that yesterday. Jordan Poole and Johnny Davis salary matches. You know what I mean? Like, literally. That's the only trade I would do. That's the only trade I would do. Other than that, Zack LeVine stays right in Washington. I mean, in Chicago. And if I'm Washington, maybe I'd be willing to do that. Like, that might be the better path for Washington. To get Jordan Poole. Clearly Jordan Poole is a broken player. Get him out of Washington. Johnny Davis, I'm not a believer. I've watched some of him in the preseason over the last several years. They've been trying to develop him. They picked him up in the lottery like 4 years ago. It's nothing there for me, to be honest with you. I ain't seen nothing there. I move him to Chicago and bring back Zack LeVine, a better overall player. Yeah, that's a good trade for the Washington Wizards, because they're not going to be any good 3 years from now. He's likely going to opt out because he probably ain't going to want to stay in Washington. You can see a lot of positivity there. They don't mind paying him $50 million because, the whole thing is surrounding Kyle Kuzma and Alex Sarr. You know what I'm saying? And Koulibaly. Like, they not winning nothing no time soon anyway. That's the trade for Chicago and Zack LeVine. That's the trade right there. And it's the only one that makes Zack LeVine make sense as an upgrade that I've seen and that I've canvassed the league and seen. That's the only one. That is the only one. And for Chicago, just no good. I don't want Jordan Poole. I'd rather have Zack LeVine. But at least if I'm bringing in Jordan Poole, the argument is if I'm bringing in Jordan Poole and Johnny Davis, we can definitely tank with those two. Work for Washington. And younger piece. Zack LeVine is like almost 30 years old. Jordan Poole's still like 23. So you will effectively be able to bring back some youth to your situation. Doesn't help your salary situation, but maybe you look at Zack LeVine as somebody who's going to get in the way of your tanking. And that's not a good thing for the Chicago Bulls. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm not necessarily excited about that if I'm the Bulls at all. But if they just have to get rid of Zack LeVine's contract specifically, Jordan Poole's making less money. It's a better contract, not a better player, but it's a better contract. It's not a good contract. It's a better one than the worst contract in the league, though. And there's somebody who could actually use the upgrade right there. So that's something I want to throw into this video. That's the only trade I see for Zack LeVine in this league is Washington Wizards. So yeah, no. The answer is no. No. I understand that his talent would be cool to have on the Lakers while LeBron and AD's here, but the idea that he would be opting into like $50 million 3 years from now is a no-go for me. And I was listening to Trevor Lane say that he thinks Zack LeVine is going to potentially opt out. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Like, if he plays to a certain level, he's still not going to be worth $50 million. Not at 31 years old. It's not happening. He don't have, and I'm going to be honest with you, he don't have the ceiling of that contract, bro. He don't. He don't have the ceiling of that contract. He plays his best ball, it's still not worth $50 million. Not. I'm just being honest. And with the history, I could argue that even if he were to do so, I could still argue against that based on the injury history. I'm just waiting for him to get hurt again. So it's like, I'm not. Come 2028, when it's time for him to opt into that contract, he will opt into that contract. Period. There's no way around that. He's definitely going to do that. And if he doesn't, he's a damn fool. We've seen people do damn fool stuff before. It would just be another person doing a damn fool move. And I don't peg Zack LeVine for being a damn fool. He signed that contract. He ain't stupid enough to opt out of it. So that's what I see there. And I want to say that I don't think he's actually in the way of the Bulls tanking. I don't actually share that vision that you can't tank with Zack LeVine on the team. I believe you can. I believe you can certainly tank with him on the team. I don't think he's going to do enough to just damage your ineptitude. I really don't. I don't see him as a player that's going to, like, he may have good games and stuff, but you're still going to lose them games if your team sucks around him. So that's what you got to do if you want to tank. Just make sure the team around him is absolutely no good, and he ain't winning. Period. And he's going to roll an ankle, and you're going to be able to make the excuse that he should stay out for 2 months because of the rolled ankle. It's not hard to tank with Zack LeVine on your team. It ain't hard at all. So I don't share that particular thought. I don't think he does enough good, period, on the basketball floor to force wins upon a team that's trying to deliberately lose. He's not going to do that. So, yeah, those are two things I wanted to say. But yeah, man, and with that being said, I don't think he's good enough to get Bron and AD to a championship on a bad contract that scoots other stuff out of the way. You moving Rui Hachimura, you moving Gabe Vincent, whom we now starting to believe in. Now I'd rather have those players. If I'm being honest with you, their contracts are better than his. They're movable pieces. Once you bring him to you, he's an immovable piece. You can't move that. Chicago's having a hard enough time moving the damn thing. Why am I going to bring it to me? And see, that's like the elephant in the room. The team that signed him to that, 2 years into the contract, regrets it so much that they're trying to get rid of it. And from what I've been reported, they're willing to attach something future value to it in order to get rid of it. If they feel that strongly about a contract that they signed him to, why should anybody want that contract on their books? And I think that's the logic you're finding all over the league. Nobody wants that contract. That the people who signed him to that don't want him on that. You got to find somebody who's even more unhappy with the contract they have. Washington, Jordan Poole. In order to get that thing off you, it has to be worse than it. So that's why, like, you can canvass the league. All 30 teams, you're only going to find Johnny Davis and Jordan Poole, in my opinion. That's the only thing that makes any sense at all. Other than that, it's not gonna make sense. Like, somebody could say maybe Clint Capella and Hunter, DeAndre Hunter, because their contracts are not great. But now, if you're the Hawks, you're sending out two big players for a small when you already got a bunch of guards. Like, nah, why the hell am I doing that if I'm the Hawks? That don't make no sense if I'm the Hawks. So once you start looking at stuff like that, then you start lessening the likelihood that someone will be willing to take on that contract. It's only Washington. It's only the Jordan Poole contract. That's it, man. Everything else makes no sense. So yeah, man, that's all I'm saying, man. And so the Lakers need to not be so desperate as to say this is the way. No, it's not. It's really not. It's definitely not. The only way, and I'm telling y'all, there is a way Chicago can get me to take the Zack LeVine contract. There's a way. You're gonna give me Bull Zealous. You're gonna give me Kobe White. You're gonna give me a bunch of future picks, unprotected, up and down. Then I'll take that awful contract from you. I'll take the worst contract in the league from you if you double up the price tag. Literally double it. I want stuff so valuable that when he opts into that $50 million contract, I have all kinds of stuff coming my way because of that. So that's like 2 or 3 first-round picks, Bull Zealous, their first pick that they just picked up, and Kobe White, their very best player, whom they probably want to pay and go forward with. I'm going to pull away anything that allows for you to have a successful rebuild if I'm taking that contract from you, for which is the only reason why you want that contract gone, is so that you can rebuild with the stuff that I'm going to take from you. You know what I'm saying? There's no way in hell you're not going to do that if you love yourself. You're not going to do that. And if I love myself, I'm not taking the Zack LeVine contract unless I'm Washington for Jordan Poole. Video 44. I'll thank you all for watching. Out.